Hi guys, my name is Annalisa and I just wanted to make this video because we have a lot of people in the group asking or thinking that CBD is going to be legal from the 1st of February. So I just wanted to clarify a few things about how legal it is in Australia currently and what it's going to be like under the new regulations. We've all seen a lot of different news articles saying that, yay, it's going to be a whole lot easier to buy, but actually it's not. So first of all, I just need to point out that you can actually Google final decision TGA and find exactly what the new laws are. So I encourage everybody to kind of have a look themselves. But I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. Pretty much the final decision was made in December, and one of the main things, cannabis is now Schedule 8, except for when it's cannabidiol and when it's captured in Schedule 4, or they've amended it at the bottom here to Schedule 3. Schedule 3 cannabidiol is brand new, and this is what the law looks like. There's a few different stipulations and rules that we're going to go through. So first of all, it's going to be a Schedule 3, which is pharmacist only. Pharmacist only is one of those medications where you have to go into the pharmacist and you have to talk to the chemist and say, hey, do you have this medicine? It's not going to be on the shelf like just in the store anywhere. It's behind the counter. You don't need a prescription for it though. As for Schedule 4, you do need a prescription. So these ones are technically called over the counter. Substances that are Schedule 3 are pretty safe, which we know CBD obviously is. It requires a pharmacist advice, so talking to the chemist. And it's going to be a medicine that's for conditions that are easily recognized by the consumer and may need a medical diagnosis, like arthritis. So you have to go and say, you can't just diagnose arthritis by yourself. Maybe you have pain, which you're able to understand and recognize in your own body, but the arthritis diagnosis would come from a medical condition. But then when you get that diagnosis, you can actually go on and manage those symptoms by yourself using what's in the examples here, Panadol Osteo for arthritis. Cold and flu medicines are available, or asthma, Ventolin. You can't diagnose asthma, but you can get the medicine just by talking to the chemist, not through a prescription. One of the rules is it's going to be any med sold over the counter, cannabidiol. It has to be included on the ARTG, and this is the sticking point why it's not going to be available for 1st of February. Even though it's going to be technically legal, it won't be available. The exact wording says cannabidiol in oral or musical or sublingual preparations. This means we're not going to be able to get high CBD flower to be able to smoke. It has to be an oral medication. And it has to be included in the Australian Register of Therapeutic Goods. What does that mean? So the process of getting a medication on the ARTG includes an application with the TGA. This can take from anywhere from 9 months to 20 months, and it costs millions of dollars. The way that it's approved is through quality, safety, and efficacy. These three things have to be proven with trials and science. The safety of CBD we already know has been established, and the pharmaceutical companies need to show evidence of that safety, just like Epidiolex, the CBD oil that's already on the ARTG for epilepsy patients. The evidence of efficacy is also needed. So in Epidiolex's example, they've shown through clinical trials that are very expensive that for epilepsy patients it will work. Okay, so the first area that these pharmaceutical companies are going to need to prove is quality. The CBD content of this medication has to be at least 98% CBD or above. The cannabidiol, which is CBD, needs to be either plant-derived, or if it's synthetic, it needs to have that exact same molecule that comes from the plant. If there's any other cannabinoids in there, it can be up to 2%, but it has to be naturally found in the cannabis plant. And if it's THC, it has to be less than 1%. So all of these medications are going to be high CBD. The other rule I want to go through is the daily dose that the TGA is going to limit at 150 milligrams per day or less. So the maximum dose that these medications that you're going to find at the chemist are going to have a recommended dose of 150 milligrams or less. Now, what this means is that pharmaceutical companies that are trying to register their medication on the ARTG have to have clinical data that shows that 150 milligrams of CBD when given to a patient, is effective for whatever indication they're going for. So they can go for a lot of different indications. We all kind of have an idea of what we want to use CBD for. I use it for pain and sleep for myself. But the problem is, so the last bullet point, it says pain, the current data is inconsistent. A lot of the data out there, the scientific research, is showing that CBD needs a little bit of a higher dose, more than the 150 milligrams, to be super effective. So the clinical data isn't going to be proof enough for the TGA that it's going to be effective, which means that their products might not be able to be approved. Their application might be just set back for that indication. So these companies are going to have to choose an indication that's appropriate, that can show efficacy. The next 3 rules we'll go through really quickly are child-proof bottle. That's a given. 30-day supply is limited, and adults only, so no children are allowed to buy this. Or, if you're trying to find CBD for your kids, it's just not going to be allowed. The 30-day supply is something that we're going to have to watch out for as consumers. So as you can see in the blue there, it just depends on the concentration. You might go into the chemist and they might have a really low concentration, 30 milligram per mil, but it's that would equal a 150 milliliter bottle. So that's as much as they can sell for the 30-day supply, and it looks like a big bottle, and it might be a really good deal, and you're thinking you're getting a pretty cheap price for this product. But then if you look at it, all 3 of those concentrations and milliliter bottles are exactly the same. So the 50 milligram per milliliter bottle, it's going to be 90 milliliters, so a smaller bottle, but it's exactly the same amount of CBD. And the same with a high concentration, 100 milligrams per mil, you're going to get a 45 milliliter bottle. It's quite small, but it's the same amount of CBD. So you're going to have to look out for that. There's a few other little details that aren't really things that people need to know, but I've included them here if you want to pause and have a read. One of the things, that advertising is not appropriate at this time. That one's going to be an issue for looking at the different products online. Companies are going to get in trouble if they have their products online. So that's going to be an issue for consumers being able to look at which products are going to be appropriate for them. You're going to have to go into the chemist and talk to them about it. One of the reasons I just wanted to show you really quickly that they've gone with 150 milligrams is because the only countries in this study that don't allow CBD for sale is Australia and New Zealand, and all of the countries that they did research on have up to 150 milligrams, except for one was a little bit higher. So the wording in this part of the decision by the TGA says that the study notes that high quality scientific data around those potential benefits of low CBD doses are yet to be conducted. So inclusion of the substance in the Schedule 3, doesn't indicate that the substance is available. And that's going back to it has to be registered on the ARTG. So to answer the question, how legal is it in Australia? It's not available yet, despite it being technically legal from 1st of February. I predict if there was companies that have already put an application in and they're just being quiet about it, or they're about to put an application in, June, if the TGA fast tracks it, October's probably the quickest really that it can get through, but it's probably going to be 2022, even 2023. It's really expensive to get these clinical trials up and running and to prove that it's effective for these indications, depending on what the indication is. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, just hop them in the comments and I'll answer them.